I've been working on cars for over 20 years. I've seen every brand come through my bay, every model, every generation. And over time, you start to notice patterns. You notice which cars come in every few months with something new broken, which ones drain their owners' bank accounts, which ones people trade in the moment the warranty expires because they know what's coming. And then there are the other ones, the cars that show up at 200,000 miles for an oil change and nothing else. The cars that mechanics see and nod at because they know that owner made a smart choice, even if nobody else would call it exciting. Today, I'm going to tell you about three of those cars. Three cars that mechanics trust completely, but most buyers won't even look at them. And by the end of this, you're going to understand why the gap between what sells and what lasts is bigger than most people realize. Here's the thing most buyers don't understand. When you walk into a dealership, you're being sold a feeling. You're being sold the idea of what that car says about you. The commercials, the badge, the way it looks parked in your driveway. And there's nothing wrong with that. People buy cars for all kinds of reasons, but none of those reasons have anything to do with whether that car is going to start in 5 years when it has 170,000 miles on it and you're still making payments. Mechanics see cars differently. We don't care what the commercial said. We don't care about the infotainment system or the massaging seats. We care about what happens when the warranty runs out. We care about how often we see that model on a lift. We care about whether the engine is buried under so much plastic and electronics that a simple repair turns into an 8-hour job. We care about whether the parts are affordable or if replacing a sensor costs $600 because it has to be dealer-ordered and programmed. And most of all, we care about whether we'd trust our own family to drive it across the country without a second thought. When you look at cars through that lens, the list gets a lot shorter, and the cars on that list are rarely the ones winning awards or getting 5-star reviews in magazines, because reliability is boring, simplicity doesn't photograph well, and a car that does the same thing for 15 years without drama doesn't generate headlines. So, let's talk about the first one, the Toyota Camry, specifically the generations from the late 90s through the early 2000s. I know what you're thinking, a Camry, the most boring car on the planet, the car your grandmother drives, the car that shows up in stock photos when someone needs to illustrate the word sedan. And you're right, it is boring, and that's exactly why it works. Buyers ignore the Camry because it doesn't make them feel anything. It's not sporty, it's not luxurious, it doesn't turn heads, it doesn't have the latest tech, it just exists. It gets you from point A to point B and does it so quietly and predictably that you forget it's even there. And for most people, that sounds like a nightmare, but for mechanics, that's the dream. Here's what I see when a Camry rolls into my shop. I see a car that's probably coming in for routine maintenance, oil change, brake pads maybe, something simple. I don't see it coming in because the transmission failed at 90,000 miles. I don't see it because the engine developed a sludge problem, or the timing chain stretched, or the water pump grenaded and took the motor with it. Those things happen on other cars. They don't happen on a Camry. Not if it was maintained even remotely close to the recommended schedule. The 4-cylinder engine in these Camrys is one of the most bulletproof designs Toyota ever made. It's not fast, it's not exciting, but it runs forever. I've seen them go 300,000 miles on the original engine and transmission without anything more than fluid changes and the occasional sensor. The transmission is equally solid. It's a traditional automatic, nothing fancy, no dual-clutch nonsense that wears out in 6 years, no CVT that whines and slips and dies at 120,000, just a regular 4-speed or 5-speed automatic that shifts when it's supposed to and keeps shifting long after the car is paid off. When things do break on a Camry, and they will eventually because every car has parts that wear out, the repairs are cheap. A starter motor costs $150 and takes 30 minutes to replace. An alternator is $200. A water pump is straightforward. There are no special tools required, no proprietary software, just basic hand tools and a little bit of patience. And because Toyota made millions of these things, parts are everywhere. You're not waiting 2 weeks for something to ship from overseas. You're walking into any auto parts store and walking out with what you need. The downside? It's a Camry. It drives like a Camry. If you want something engaging or fun or remotely interesting, this isn't it. The interior is plain, the materials are fine but nothing impressive, the ride is soft and disconnected. If you care about driving dynamics, you'll hate it. But if you care about never being stranded, never wondering if your car is going to start, never stressing about repair bills, this is the car you buy. The second car mechanics trust is the Honda Civic. And before you roll your eyes because that sounds like the most predictable answer in the world, let me clarify. I'm not talking about the new ones. I'm talking about the 7th and 8th generation Civics, the ones from the early 2000s, the ones that look small and plain and outdated compared to what's on the road now. Buyers don't want these anymore because they feel old. They don't have all the modern safety features. They don't have backup cameras or blind spot monitoring. The interiors are basic, the tech is non-existent, and they're small. Most people today want something bigger, something that feels substantial. The Civic feels like a tin can by comparison, and that's exactly why it lasts. Modern cars are loaded with electronics. Every system is controlled by a computer. Every function has a sensor, and when those sensors fail, which they do, the repair bills are astronomical. On a 7th-gen Civic, there's almost nothing to break. The engine is a simple 4-cylinder with a timing chain that doesn't need regular replacement like a belt does. The manual transmission, if you can find one, is nearly indestructible. The automatic is solid. The suspension is basic but effective. There's no turbocharger to worry about, no direct injection system that carbons up the valves, no variable valve timing that goes out of spec, just a straightforward, well-engineered engine that does its job without complaint. I see these Civics all the time with 250,000 miles still running like they're new. The owners bring them in for oil changes and tire rotations, and that's about it. I've had customers tell me they bought one used with 140,000 miles on it, drove it for another 100,000, and sold it still running. That's not luck, that's design. The other thing about the Civic is that it's easy to work on. Everything is accessible. You don't need to remove the front bumper to change a headlight. You don't need to pull the engine to replace a starter. You don't need a scan tool just to reset the oil change reminder. It's a car designed in an era when manufacturers still assumed people might want to fix things themselves. And even if you're not doing the work yourself, that simplicity means your mechanic isn't charging you 3 hours of labor for a 1-hour job because half of it is just disassembly. The downside? It's small. It's loud on the highway, the ride is firm, the materials feel cheap because they are cheap. If you're 6'3", you're not going to be comfortable. If you haul a lot of people or cargo regularly, it's not going to work. But if you're a single person or a couple and you just need a car that will never let you down, this is it. The third car is the one people mock the most, the Ford Crown Victoria. Specifically, the ones built in the late 90s and early 2000s. The same platform as the Mercury Grand Marquis and Lincoln Town Car. And I already know what people are going to say. That's an old man's car, that's a retired cop car, it's a boat, it's terrible on gas, it's outdated, it's ugly. All of that is true, and none of it matters.
The Crown Vic is trusted by mechanics for one simple reason: it refuses to die. I have never, in 20 years, seen a Crown Vic with a failed engine or transmission that was maintained properly. Not once. These cars were designed to be police cruisers and taxis. They were built to idle for hours, to be driven hard, to rack up 300,000 miles in city traffic and keep going. And they did exactly that. The engine is a 4.6-liter V8. It's not powerful by modern standards. It's not efficient, but it's simple. Pushrod design, no overhead cams, no variable timing, no turbo, no direct injection, just a big, lazy V8 that makes adequate power and never breaks. The transmission is a 4-speed automatic that's been used in everything from trucks to vans to police cars for decades. Ford made millions of them. They know how to build them, and they know how to make them last. The rest of the car is equally overbuilt. Body-on-frame construction like a truck, solid rear axle, simple suspension, everything is designed to take abuse. And because these were fleet vehicles, parts are cheap and plentiful. A window regulator costs $40, a fuel pump is $120, an alternator is $90. You're not paying luxury car prices for basic repairs. The reason people mock the Crown Vic is because it doesn't fit the modern idea of what a car should be. It's huge, it's slow, it gets 15 miles per gallon in the city, it doesn't handle well. The interior looks like it was designed in 1995, which it was. It doesn't have modern safety features, it doesn't have Bluetooth or a touch screen or adaptive cruise control. If you care about any of those things, this car is not for you. But if you care about buying something for $3,000 that will run for another 10 years without major repairs, this is the car. If you want something you can fix yourself in your driveway with basic tools, this is it. If you want a car that doesn't depreciate anymore because it already hit the bottom and bounced, the Crown Vic is the answer. I've seen these things with 400,000 miles still being daily driven, still starting every morning, still passing inspection, still doing exactly what they were designed to do. So what do all three of these cars have in common? They were built before planned obsolescence became the standard. They were built with simple, proven drivetrains that didn't need to be cutting edge or impressive. They were built with parts that are easy to access and cheap to replace. They were built in an era when a car was expected to last, not be traded in every 3 years. None of them are exciting, none of them will impress your neighbors, none of them have the latest technology, but all of them will start tomorrow and the day after that, and 5 years from now when you've forgotten what a car payment feels like. The reason most buyers miss these cars is simple: ego. We've been trained to think that the car we drive says something about who we are, that driving something boring means we've settled, that we deserve something nicer, something newer, something that makes us feel successful. And the marketing works. People buy cars they can't afford because they want to feel like they've made it. They finance something flashy for 7 years and spend the whole time stressed about the payment and the repairs. Mechanics don't think that way. We see too many of those flashy cars on the lift, with failed turbos and stretched timing chains and transmissions that need to be rebuilt at 60,000 miles. We see people who bought the dream and ended up with the nightmare. And we see the people who bought the boring car, the one nobody wanted, driving it for 15 years without a single major issue. If you're someone who just needs a car to get to work, to last a long time, to not surprise you with 4-figure repair bills, these 3 cars should be at the top of your list. If you're okay with driving something that doesn't get compliments, if you're okay with simplicity over features, if you'd rather save money than impress strangers, this is the direction you go. But if you care about image, if you want the latest tech, if you trade cars every few years anyway, don't buy these. Buy what makes you happy. Just know what you're getting into. The difference between a good car and a lasting car is something most people learn too late, after the repairs start piling up, after the resale value tanks, after they realize that the thing they bought because it felt right turned into a financial burden. Mechanics learn it early because we see the aftermath every single day. We don't care about trends, we don't care what won Motor Trend's award, we care about what still runs when everything else has been traded in or scrapped. And the 3 cars I just told you about, they're still running. They'll keep running long after the cars that replaced them are gone. That's not opinion. That's just what we see every single day, in every single shop. The same cars, still going, still trusted. I'd love to hear your stories. Have you ever had a mechanic warn you about a car or tell you to buy something everyone else thought was boring? Have you owned a car that just refused to die no matter what you put it through? Drop it in the comments. And if you want more honest talk about cars from someone who actually works on them instead of just reading press releases, go ahead and subscribe. No hype, no nonsense, just the truth about what lasts.